Federalist 74, Part 2. I stopped reading in the middle of paragraph 3. I'll just go ahead and start from the middle of that paragraph. Make sure, please, you watch the first part of this Federalist. I'm just going to read the rest of this to you because it's going to be a short one. So, middle of paragraph 3, the reflection that the fate of a fellow creature depended on his sole fiat would naturally inspire scrupulousness and caution. The dread of being accused of weakness or connivance would beget equal circumspection, though of a different kind. On the other hand, as men generally derive confidence from their numbers, they might often encourage each other in an act of obduracy and might be less sensible to the apprehensions of suspicion or censure for an injudicious or affected clemency. On these accounts, one man appears to be a more eligible dispenser of the mercy of the government than a body of men. So the power of pardon in the hands of one man, one person, the president, would be much better than giving that power to the legislature. Even though some people said the legislature should have this power, but when you think about it long term, and especially sometimes because quickness in decision making is important, he says it's better to have it in the hands of one person. And also sometimes you can't convene the Congress every time something like that happens. You're in the middle of a war. It is important that the spy you have captured, you want to pardon them because they might have something to give you. You can't call the Congress every minute and ask for them to give this pardon. The expediency of vesting the power of pardoning in the president has, if I mistake not, been only contested in relation to the crime of treason. This, it has been urged, ought to have depended upon the assent of one or both of the branches of the legislative body. I shall not deny that there are strong reasons to be assigned for requiring in this particular, in the case of treason, the concurrence of that body or of a part of it, as treason is a crime leveled at the immediate being of the society. It's against the society, the whole society. When the laws have once ascertained the guilt of the offender, there seems a fitness in referring the expediency of an act of mercy towards him to the judgment of the legislature. And this ought the rather to be the case, as the supposition of the connivance of the chief magistrate ought not to be entirely excluded. But there are also strong objections to such a plan. It is not to be doubted that a single man of prudence and good sense is better fitted in delicate conjunctures to balance the motives which may plead for and against the remission of punishment than any numerous body. I lost my place. Body whatever. It deserves particular attention that the treason will often be connected with seditions which embrace a large proportion of the community, as lately happened in Massachusetts, Daniel Shays' rebellion, which actually was one of the, not the main reason, but it was one of the main reasons that it expedited convening a constitutional convention. Made it fast, made it happen faster. In every such case, we might expect to see the representation of the people tainted with the same spirit which had given birth to the offense. And when parties were pretty equally matched, the secret sympathy of the friends and favors of the condemned, availing itself of the good nature and weakness of others, might frequently bestow impunity where the terror of an example was necessary. On the other hand, when the sedition had proceeded from causes which had inflamed the resentment of the major party, they might often be found obstinate and inexorable, when policy demanded a conduct of forbearance and clemency. But the principal argument for reposing the power of pardoning, in this case, in the chief magistrate, is this: in seasons of insurrection and rebellion, there are often critical moments when a well-timed offer of pardon to the insurgents or rebels may restore the tranquility of Commonwealth. Just like I said, it's important that sometimes these pardons be given immediately. This way you can restore peace to the state, to the country, to wherever it's affected. So that's why you can't always run back to the legislature, because you can't convene them at all times easily. And he has also a good point that he covered. He said, always remember, there might be an insurrection and half of the people are really, really mad about something. So if you go and capture, let's say, a few of the people that are in this insurrection and then kill all of them, you got to remember that half of the people were sympathetic towards these people, and the representatives they chose and they sent to the Congress might also reflect their point of view, and then you're just going to create a chaos because half of that legislature is not going to vote one way or the other depending on what the constituents want. So it just becomes really confusing, and this feeling of anger and resentment will go on, and it will fester like a bad wound. It will just make the society even worse. So it's not good to have too many people deciding on what to do, because like I said, sometimes they might just go overboard. The person might be guilty of something minor, and then they, just because they want to say, we're going to teach you a lesson, they might just go out of bounds and just kill the person, and then really tear up the fabric of the society. And then I'll continue the last part. So let me just read this sentence again. In seasons of insurrection or rebellion, there are often critical moments when a well-timed offer of pardon to the insurgents or rebels may restore the tranquility of the Commonwealth, and which, if suffered to pass unimproved, it may never be possible afterwards to recall. The dilatory process of convening the legislature or one of its branches for the purpose of obtaining its sanction to the measure would frequently be the occasion of letting slip the golden opportunity. The loss of a week, a day, an hour may sometimes be fatal if it should be observed that a discretionary power with a view to such contingencies might be occasionally conferred upon the President. It may be answered in the first place that it is questionable whether in a limited constitution that power could be delegated by law, and in the second place that it would generally be impolitic beforehand to take any step which might hold out the prospect of impunity. A proceeding of this kind, out of the usual course, would be likely to be construed into an argument of timidity or of weakness, and would have a tendency to embolden the guilt. So just give this power to the president, and strategically, yes, he says, I agree that not everybody is going to agree with this, even acts like he would prefer if the legislature would take care of it. But because they'd seen during the war, Revolutionary War, things that had happened, that it's best to give the power of pardon to one person that sometimes can pardon someone quickly and reap the benefits, much more benefit than if you had to wait for days or weeks for the Congress to convene. Then it might just be totally disastrous. So I hope that you read some of those books that I've recommended to you eventually, but definitely watch and listen to some of those lectures of the professors that I have mentioned their names to you. There's tons of videos available on C-SPAN, YouTube, and all sorts of academic websites, Library of Congress, National Constitution Center, National Archives, and many universities. I hope you benefit from them.